In this chapter, we'll provide you with some information about taking care of yourself. Now, as a parent of a child with autism, this is probably the last thing on your mind. I remember being told that as well, and I didn't believe that I could ever do that, given all the needs that my child had. But in this chapter, we'll provide you with some practical, concrete tips on taking care of yourself.
We hear it all the time, the importance of self-care, that we can't care for our child unless we cared for ourselves. But that's a really complex thing to ask a parent when they're feeling so many feelings. Sometimes, and I did it, we put our self-care in the back and we push forward with just grinding away at getting things done for our child. And what I found over the years for myself is that if I didn't pause in whatever that looked like for me and take a moment to care for myself, to provide a moment, even if it was just a moment, to refuel, I would lose my resiliency and I wasn't able to cope with some of the things that were thrown at me. So over the years I learned how to find my own way, my own path to self-care. And that can include, for a lot of parents, if they don't have a partner, if they're not married, that includes a really deliberate attempt at trying to find a community for yourself. That might mean other parents who have children with autism, that might be dear friends, it could be colleagues, it could be family members, but we have to take that time and that energy to reach out to those people that care about us and create a community so we can care for ourselves better.
As a mom, it's hard to think of yourself. My support system is my husband, my friends, and my sisters that are far away.
I talk a lot. I was getting my oil changed and I found a mom in the waiting room there. I have found a mom in the waiting room at the speech therapy. You're in a lot of different places and just making small talk with someone might lead into a new relationship.
Definitely surround yourself with people who understand, empathetic people, family who unconditionally can support you.
Asking for help is definitely not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength because you realize that you can't do this alone. And I want you to know you can't do this alone.
At first, it was definitely hard to share with neighbors and friends. Something we didn't know how it was going to be received. I think that was probably one of the hardest things for us. But with how well it was received, we never regretted it for a minute. So it got easier with time. I'd say the first 10 people we told, it was difficult.
After we struggled a lot, then we found them on a group that brings family with, children with disability to come together. And we found that is the time we felt that, hey, we're not alone. This is something it is a lot of families going through. And that is the time we opened up and we started talking. We started sharing the things. We started feeling comfortable.
I was terrified of going for a year, and then I went. I was like, this is fantastic. I'm sat in a room full of people that haven't slept much or, had food thrown at the wall or, maybe they've been scratched or pushed or maybe their kid had a difficult time at school and they know what I'm going through and just talking in those groups and seeing all the nodding heads was, I haven't looked back since I started doing it.
Reach out and ask for help and know that in doing so, you are better serving your child, your family, and yourself.
One thing that I needed in my life was I needed the people around us to understand what we were going through because he is a very vocal child. So there is a lot of screaming. We live in a city. Our neighbors are going to hear it. So what my husband and I decided to do was really advocate for him. And so we wrote a letter to all of our neighbors. We did it on April 1st, the day before Autism Awareness Day, and gave everybody a blue light bulb and just said, here's the story of our son. We just received this diagnosis. He has autism. You may have noticed that he likes to lick your front step, but this is just part of his textural intake, and this is how he sees the world, which is much different than our way of doing it. And I just needed them to understand what was happening so that they weren't overwhelmed or felt like they needed to engage or needed to involve any outside parties that didn't need to get involved on maybe a rough night getting my son to go through his bedtime routine. On April 2nd, on Autism Awareness Day, it was the first year since the diagnosis, and our entire block went blue. Everybody had blue lights. Even the local church had blue lights. The local bodega had blue lights. I mean, everybody just embraced the cause. And we were so overwhelmed. That's exactly what we needed. We just needed to know that it was going to be okay. That they may not accept or understand, but they were empathetic.
I decided that I wanted to spend more time with parents of kids with special needs, either with their children or without. And that kind of gave me an identity, I guess. It gave me an identity again of, I'm not just a parent, I'm a parent of 2 kids with autism. And kind of that just gives me a thicker skin when I'm out.
It's been a positive thing for us all to have somebody that needs a little bit more help, and it's made us closer by taking care of him and really grouping around him to do what he needs to get by.
I think someone said to me, you have to be able to find balance, and I couldn't find balance, so that was just one more thing that I failed at, and so I decided balance was not achievable, but I did find a way to divide my time and attention to all of the people in our family.
Sometimes you all just need to pile onto the couch together and just be together, everybody. There's not always individual time every single day. I do make it a point to have individual time with all of my children and my husband at different points of the week, but I have found that it just doesn't all happen in one day.
For me and my husband, we definitely were stretched very thin with my son and the diagnosis, and just being able to accept what was happening and understand that we were going to become different people. We were going to become different parents.
My husband is an amazing father, and we talk. We have lots of conversations and open conversation about our feelings and about what we want to do, and we support each other. And this is what makes us strong.
I don't know how either one of us would have got through it without the other one. It's been definitely a growing experience for us working together on this thing.
Part of being a parent of a child with autism is learning to adapt and learning to try new things and to be creative. And we're so good at doing that for our children, but we aren't as good as we could be for doing that for ourselves.
It was about a year after he was diagnosed, I stopped trying to make him normal. I stopped trying to fight everything that he wanted to do. Like he wanted to, for example, all he wanted to do for a year is chew things, so sensory. Books, anything he could get his hands on, he would chew, and it would upset me. I don't want you to chew in public, and when friends come over, I don't want you to chew their shoes. And then after a while, I just bought him a ton of chew toys and put them in a box and said, you can chew anything in this box. And so he had I just embraced it.
I was the kind of person who, in order to get a good night's sleep, had to be in a dark room with the right temperature, no lights, no noise. And I would get very frustrated when I tried to take a nap during the day and couldn't because all of those variables weren't going my way. And it took me a while, but I finally came to realize that sleep was important and I needed to rethink how I managed to do that. So one day I took a sleeping bag and a flashlight and I went into my dark garage and I climbed into the back of my minivan and I took a nap. So I was capable of changing some habits and patterns that I didn't think that I would be able to.
I read something last week that really made me smile, and it said actually, respect your autism elders. They've been going out without sleep a lot longer than you have.
So my suggestion would be sleep when your child sleeps and find some ways to take care of yourself. If it means sleeping, if it means eating, if it means talking to a friend, going out for a walk or a run. These are things that are going to help you to have the stamina and the strength to be able to help your child.
For quite some time in the beginning, your whole world is about autism. It dominates every conversation, every day. And sometimes you need time for it just not to be about autism.
So no matter where you are in your journey or your family's journey, never underestimate the power of self-care to add more resilience to you and to your family.